May Allah bless and keep you safe, keep you safe. May Allah bless and keep you safe.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My dear respected viewers of Madani Channel, we once again welcome you in our program Secrets of Health. In this health show, we talk about different various diseases and how, alhamdulillah, we can cure them or minimize their effects through fasting. So this is what we are discussing in the series of programs, and we are talking about the benefits of fasting, and we are also trying to give you awareness about various diseases, their symptoms and their treatments available. Insha'Allah Azza wa Jal, this is such an information which benefits to the wider audience, and you will benefit from that too. So be with us from start till end. You're going to learn so much today, insha'Allah Azza wa Jal. Before we proceed towards our main topic, let's make few good intentions. It is a saying of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Niyatul mu'mini khayrun min amalihi. Intention of a believer is better than his actions. So dear viewers of Madani Channel, I make this intention that I will deliver this program for the pleasure of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. And you make this intention, you will listen from start till end, you'll remember what you learn, you will act upon and pass this knowledge on to others too, insha'Allah Azza wa Jal. Without any further delay, let's go towards our honorable guest, who is Dr. Khurram Attari, and he is practicing as a consultant in one of the UK's university hospitals. So let's go to him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Doctor, how are you doing? You okay?
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
MashaAllah. Jazakallahu khairan. Thank you so much once again. You are here. Alhamdulillah, in the last episode, if you could just give us a bit of recap so we can then start with, I remember we touched the topic of stroke and its symptoms and functioning of the brain, and subhanallah, what an amazing creation of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. So if we go a bit further than that, just before I want a little bit of recap, then inshallah we've got Parkinsonism today to discuss, and then multiple sclerosis, and then memory. Inshallah we will be discussing that.
Inshallah. So as we were discussing, so brain is a fascinating creation of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, which despite the best efforts of the scientists and researchers, we just have not been able to understand fully. So we discussed one of the higher executive function of the brain, and we understood in the context of stroke, where we lose the ability to move a part of the body or to be unable to speak, and how to recognize it. And also, in contrast to stroke, where we are losing those nerve cells or neurons, fasting can help with, exactly. So fasting can actually help in building new neurons and also new synapses, which are those junctions between the neurons where neurotransmitter is responsible for communicating between those two neurons.
MashaAllah. Also, there was one research, you reminded me, with regards to receptors and how do we feel the sensation on our skin. Quran talks about the punishment of a human being. So it says that the summary of this concept in Quran is, what I remember so far, that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala talks about the punishment when a human being, or they will be given punishment in the hellfire. Then it says that their skin will come back. Their skin will be brought back to them, and then again they will be given punishment. So the researchers, the one who was researching on this, they thought that why is this skin important for the sense of punishment? So definitely there are certain kind of sensation. If this skin is not there, then maybe the person doesn't feel the pain. Is there any sort of concept?
So it's very interesting actually, because what we do know is skin is an organ, and that is inshallah there are benefits of fasting on skin as well, which we'll inshallah cover in one of the upcoming episodes. So we do know that skin is enriched with nerve endings. So these nerve endings are responsible for the sensation. So this is the sensory element of our peripheral nervous system. So as you said, so it is the first time if we get any injury, or for example, if suddenly we open a tap of water, the water is too hot, we would have noticed that we remove our finger and then we recognize that, oh, the water was very hot. So it seems though there is a perhaps microsecond difference, but the removal of the finger from that source of heat is first, followed by a processed message from the brain to say that something has happened. So what the research tells us that response actually happens at the spinal cord level. So the synaptic reflex, which happens because it is a protective mechanism which Allah Ta'ala has given, that it does not want these nerve endings or the skin to be burnt, even for a microsecond. So by the time the message will go to the brain, it will process, recognize, and order to remove the finger. We needed even a quicker bypass route where something can be done even at a lower level. So that microsecond might make a difference. So that tells us that, again, how if someone has had, may Allah Ta'ala forbid, ever been in a situation where they had burnt either their fingertips or toe or something, would recognize how intensely painful that condition is. And another condition which humanity has always been worried about is leprosy. And one of the types of leprosy is where, which is a very rare condition nowadays, but in Middle Ages, and certainly as we read the human history, leprosy was something humanity was afraid of, was actually the loss of that sensation. So I think all that context explains that skin being so enriched organ for nerve endings, that the perception of pain for someone who is punished in, as you mentioned with a reference to the Quran, in that hellfire would be intensely painful, and be it in the form of scolding or whatever form that punishment takes. And the regeneration, so one, it confirms the fact that we do know that skin regenerates. So that is the same phenomenon is happening there. And the second thing is that it is those nerve endings which give that intense perception of pain, which follows. May Allah Ta'ala help all of us abstain the hellfire and its punishment.
Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. So dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, we need to seek protection from Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. Always when you make prayer in the court of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, ask this dua. Please include this dua in your normal routine prayers. Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, please protect us from the fire of the hell. We cannot really bear that. We can never ever even think to bear that. You know what is the lightest punishment of the fire of the hell? The fire, shoes made of fire will be given to a person, the dweller of hell, to wear as a punishment, and his brain will boil like water boils in the kettle. Astaghfirullah. Just imagining this, imagination puts us into pain, to be honest with you, if somebody is Allah fearing. So dear viewers of Madani Channel, we cannot even think that punishment, the fire of the hell. We should always seek forgiveness from the court of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. If any sin we have committed in our life, we should ask forgiveness, and we should always ask protection from the fire of the hell, and we should always ask dua in the court of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. May Allah enter us in Jannatul Firdaus, in paradise. Ameen. Bijahin Nabiyil Ameen. So dear Dr. the concept of brain and then its connection to the body we were talking about. So we have discussed in detail about the stroke in the last episode. I would like you to discuss Parkinsonism. This is a condition of a brain, and how would you explain to the normal viewers of Madani Channel for their easy understanding, what is it, how is it related to brain, and is there any evidence of fasting which helps in this type of condition?
So, so I guess first of all, if I can introduce the concept.
Sorry, I'm posing so many questions to you. You can take your time and then explain at your ease.
No, of course not. Well, I guess that's why we are here. But so I think once we understand the basics of this condition, it will help us understand of how fasting. And again, obviously, with that understanding that most of that research is quite basic, but it still gives us clues and pointers in the right direction that certainly there is some beneficial effects of that. So what is Parkinsonism? So this is a phenomenon which is part of a neurodegenerative conditions of the brain. So this is where a brain gradually loses the capability of simple motor functions. So that the word we use is Parkinsonism because it is, one is Parkinson's disease, which is primarily a condition of the brain. And the word Parkinsonism refers to other reasons why someone can develop Parkinson's disease-like features, but it is not primarily happening because of the degeneration in the brain. It is happening perhaps due to an adverse effect of a medication, right, or it is part of a complex of a different neural condition. So people may have seen patients with Parkinsonism. So there are 3 or 4 key features. Yeah. So one is that people will get tremors. So this is because of the fine motor function which we need in order to control our fingertips. So once that is lost because of this degeneration in the brain, the fingers will be continuously doing that. So this is what we call a pill rolling tremor. Second thing which will happen is bradykinesia. So which is the normal motion of the arms, especially when we are walking. So our arms usually would move in a rhythmic pattern. So that is lost and the arms are almost stuck and static in that form. Third is rigidity. So if you, for example, you would try and let's say if the arm was like that, so they were bent at the elbow and we tried to straighten it, so it would be quite rigid, and this is what we call cogwheel rigidity. Right. So they would give way a little, then get stuck, then give way, stuck, give way, and then it will be this sort of until you can get the arm all the way straight. So the reason why it's happening is because that the continuous discharge of these nerves, it is gone into, in a sense, an overactive form. So the message is coming from the brain because of the degeneration. The nerves are constantly firing, and as a result, the nerves are constantly giving the message to the muscles to keep moving. So obviously the muscles, as a result, are confused. So this is oversimplifying the sort of the pathology here, and that's why we would get these features. In addition, what they get is micrographia. So this is when they want to write. So it's very typically called spider handwriting. So it almost feel like the words are very small, difficult to read, and they're almost like a spider web. So very joined handwriting they will develop over time. And finally, they have mask-like face. So all the facial expressions where we need all these different muscles in our face, of the muscles, they would lose all of that. So that's what happens in Parkinson's disease. And may Allah protect all of us. So the issue here is one with, as I said, this is a neurodegenerative condition. So what we know that in people with Parkinson's disease, there have been studies done looking at brief episodes of fasting. And that has shown is, one, it has helped with the motor function. So this motor function where they're able to need to hold things, and the issues, as I mentioned, about the pill rolling tremor and the handwriting. So this is all comes under the broader motor function of the brain. So sensory function is when we're able to sense things. So the heat, the touch, all those sensations which we can feel. And then there is motor function, which is the ability to do things. So hold things, for example, using our muscles. So the fasting can actually improve the motor function of the brain. So that's one of the beauties of this. And the second thing which we discussed partially in the last episode is again the concept of neurogenesis. So here, the nerves, they are able to certainly regenerate, or new neurons are being formed as a result of fasting. So there have been positive experiments in Parkinsonism. Now, of course, it would be quite obvious to mention here that we're not saying that fasting is the only treatment. So obviously, all the treatments would be according to the advice of the specialists. But we
always advise that anyway.
Exactly. However, what it tells us is that fasting can help even in these chronic neurodegenerative, incurable conditions. Even there is very clear evidence that fasting does have a positive benefit to the people with Parkinsonism.
MashaAllah. The viewers of Madani Channel beautifully explained what Parkinsonism is. Let's move to another disease which is known as multiple sclerosis.
So that is another condition which is, in short, is called MS, or multiple sclerosis. So in the UK, we know there are about 500,000 to 600,000 patients of MS. And this is a condition which tends to affect generally younger people. So compared to sort of Parkinsonism, which is more related to older people, this is more with younger people. And here again, as we were saying about the diversity of brain functions. So in Parkinsonism, we learned, in contrast to stroke, where there was a brain attack and there was a sudden loss of neurons due to lack of blood supply. In Parkinsonism and neurodegenerative condition, that is where gradually the nerves have become almost, so they have degenerated and they have broken down to an extent that the normal motor functions have been affected. And in MS, in order to understand MS, one thing which is important to understand is that if we look at the nerve fibers, there are large nerve fibers which have this particular sheath around them, which is called myelin sheath. So this myelin sheath is an amazing structure which helps amplify the nerve response. So imagine a nerve, so for example, sciatic nerve, a very well-known nerve which starts in the bottom of the spine, so in the lumbar area, and goes all the way down to the foot. So huge nerve. Now, if something was happening at the sole of the foot, and if it was a standard nerve fiber which was taking that message, so it has to take it all the way up the leg into the spinal cord, which then takes it up to the brain, to the cerebral cortex. So we're still talking about times in perhaps milliseconds, but still that is not quick enough. So in order to amplify that response and enhance that response, these nerve fibers have myelin sheaths. So what myelin does is that it increases the speed at which the nerve can transmit the signal. So those synaptic responses which we discussed in the last episode, so they are in a sense almost bypassed, and the nerve message almost jumps from one part of the nerve to the other, and this way it amplifies the response of the nerve. So these are called myelinated fibers. And then there are non-myelinated fibers which don't have this capacity to do that, and that generally would be in the smaller nerves. So what happens in a condition like MS? So this is a demyelinating condition. So where the nerves...
If you can just simplify more for the audience and viewers of Madani Channel, they are understanding this little bit of complex terminology is being used. So I thought if you will please simplify that for further understanding.
So for example, there is, so as we were saying, so this is this, so it is really, so if we can take an example of, let's say if we have a pipe which is stuck somewhere. So in order to get that pipe out of, let's say, a hole, one of the strategies we would use is that we would put some oil over it. So we pour some oil, will lubricate it, and that lubrication will make it easier for the pipe to come through. So that's exactly what myelin sheath is doing. It's lubricating that nerve fiber to get the message across as quickly as possible.
So what happens to a youngster when he has MS?
Yeah, so when they have MS, so because they have lost these myelin sheath, so the first thing which will happen is that all of these things which we mentioned will slow down. So basically, in this condition, they will get a vast array of symptoms wherever the myelin sheaths are. So the symptoms, for example, one they could get is they can have temporary blindness. And that has happened because of the nerve which supplies the back of the brain called optic nerve. So they can get optic neuritis. If there is the myelin which has been affected in the brain, then they can have these moments of haze, or what we call brain fog. So they wouldn't be able to process information. If it happens in the peripheral nerves, then they control both sensations and motor control. So they may lose the control of their legs, they might lose control of their arms, or they may lose a sensation. So wide array of symptoms which can happen in MS.
Allahu Akbar. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, Allahu Akbar. Just one nerve. Dr. Sahib mentioned earlier about the sciatic nerve. That's one of the longest nerves in our body. It gets disturbed because of the disc bulge, and that impinges the nerve, and then it disturbs the blood supply. And that pain, a person who has experienced that pain, he knows better. And further, we have understood there are so many different nerves, a little bit of disturbance in them, a little bit of imbalance in the system through the brain, the signals of this whole mechanism of the message Allah Ta'ala has created. What happens? Our complete body gets paralyzed. We cannot even walk. We cannot even, to be honest with you, stand up properly. And just because of one nerve's disturbance, our whole body gets disturbed. If today Allah Ta'ala has given us health, we should be thankful to Allah Ta'ala. If we can pray salah while standing, we should do it today, before it is too late, before we are caught up by any sorts of illnesses when we will regret. If only I would have prayed when I was able to do so. Yes, my dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, I know one person who got his hip replacement, and I know a person who got his knee replacement. So the person who had these issues in his body, he says that I regret the days when I could stand up and pray. I could do sajda, but I can't do any more. So dear Islamic brothers, if we are in our youth, when we are young today, alhamdulillah, Allah has given us power, Allah has given us ability to do ibadah. We should not miss a single salah. Remember, when you will not be able to do sajda, then you will regret the moment that you can put this head down in the court of Allah Ta'ala. Why are we waiting that time to come? When we will get older, when a time will come when we will be old enough, and maybe may Allah Ta'ala protect us, the Parkinsonism comes into existence. Allah Ta'ala protect us. We're talking about the youngsters. They have effects of disbalance of their nerve system and all that, and that could cause even blindness. But dear Islamic brothers, we're using these eyes for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala, or we're committing sins from this. We should have fear of Allah Ta'ala. If Allah has given us eyesight, He can take back that too. We should have fear that. This is the message from this platform, from this beautiful program of Secrets of Health. Health is a blessing, so use it for ibadah, use it for preparation for the hereafter. Dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, the last topic which I would like Dr. Sahib to shed light on, that is memory. Memory is very important in our day-to-day life, in our learning the subjects of this modern day and age. You see, studies, or may it be Islamic studies, may it be learning Quran by heart. So what do you think about what medical science talks about memory, and how can we protect it, or can it be improved? So can you please shed light on this?
So again, memory is one of those, I guess, these higher mental functions of the brain. which I think everybody, despite the best of research, we're still not able to fully understand how we can have this incredible, vast stores of memory in our brains. So to give you an example, that one of the biggest libraries in US would have 19 million volumes of research. And that is equivalent to nearly 10 terabytes of data. And by one suggestion, a human brain on average may have 100 terabytes of memory. So imagine the number of volumes, and it is shelving in different parts of the brain. How could all of that information store in the human brain? It is just beyond understanding. And this is, and that memory which we rely so heavily on. And I guess, again, as you were referring to why we need to fear Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, ask the importance of memory of those who have dementia. So these are the people who have lost that memory, and those who are looking after us. In the UK, for example, we know that there are 2 million people who are living with dementia, with carers, and there are perhaps another 1 million people who have perhaps mild dementia and they're living by themselves. Exactly. So they are lonely as well as they have this dementia. And those who have cared for dementia, this is a condition where people would describe that your personality, your loved one, your father, your mother, is taken away rather brutally in front of you, and you can't do anything. They are there, but they're not there. Because what they have is that it would start with simple, perhaps, accidents, where we get what we call antegrade memory loss. So the short-term memory, that tends to go first. So where did I leave my keys? Where did that happen?
Did I shut the windows or not?
Exactly. So it will start with that, and then will gradually progress to start forgetting those long-held memories, memories of childhood, memories of children, memories of close, near and dear ones, to the extent that it will come to a point where they wouldn't even recognize their own children. And then when things get worse, they don't even recognize themselves, to the point where they would forget how to eat, because you need memory to remember that your hand needs to go in your mouth to be able to deliver that morsel. If you didn't have that memory, then you wouldn't be able to even feed yourself or even to look after yourself. So all of that, so I guess one can, understand the importance of memory. And I guess the beauty of fasting is that it also helps with memory. So we always, so again, we think that, somehow fasting is limited to our gut. But here, one of the things where research has shown that memory improves cognitive function. So memory, memory and the cognitive function, they're improved with fasting. And the other thing which happens with this is this concept of what we call synaptic plasticity. So the synapses, again, those neural connections, they need to be able to upregulate or downregulate based on the need. So they need to have that element of flexibility. And most of these memories, they're stored in a special part in the brain called hippocampus. So that's where they're generally stored. So in that area, one needs to be able to, in order to access those memories, this is the RAM, so the rapid access memory. So one needs storage, so that is the hard drive. Then we need ability to access that memory, that's the RAM. All of that needs those synaptic responses. So the beauty of fasting is that it's been shown that fasting would increase the synaptic plasticity. So it will improve the flexibility of these synapses to upregulate, to form or to deform, depending on the need and requirement. So it is improving the cognitive function. The fasting is improving the synaptic plasticity. And more relevant, again, to our last topic of multiple sclerosis or MS, is that there is another concept which is called autophagy. So autophagy is where all the cells in the body which are not functioning well, and they need a bit of trim. So in our hair overgrow, we need a bit of trim. So similarly, when the cells, they are not functioning well, you need a little bit of trim to get the parts which are not functioning right to be replaced by the parts which are working well. So it is just really, a body part replacement. So that is what happens in conditions like MS, is that we have less autophagy. So the body is not able to recognize where the problems are, so it does not replace those cells in time. They accumulate, and then because the bad cells are accumulating, they're multiplying, we are losing the capacity overall. So what it does, it enhances the autophagy. That's also thanks to fasting. So fasting gives the ability for the cells, for the body to recognize the bad elements of the cell, to do the trim and the cut as necessary, and to enhance that process so that we not only improve our neural function, which is required in MS, but also in the functions of our memory, which is stored in the hippocampus.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Again, at the end, I am left with one sentence of my beloved Prophet Sallallahu Ta'ala Alaihi Wasallam saying, fast, you'll become healthy. Dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, we should be proud of being Muslims, and Alhamdulillah, we are following the religion of Islam, the religion which is liked by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. That is the true religion, and the ibadah which we are being asked to perform in terms of fasting, Alhamdulillah, it has many benefits, spiritual benefits and physical benefits. And today we've talked about, Alhamdulillah, how it helps for the well-being of our brain and for the health of our brain. That's all for today, inshallah. We'll come back with another beautiful topic in our upcoming episodes. Until then, keep watching Madani Channel and keep reciting Salat upon Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam.
May Allah bless and keep you safe. Keep you safe. May Allah bless and keep you safe.